everybody. Welcome to Speed Stackin, your weekly roundup of what's happening in the Steady Stack Discord. Before we dive into the content, I do want to throw a little reminder that everything we say in this podcast is purely our opinion and not meant to be financial advice, and is primarily intended to be entertainment and educational purposes only. So what is Steady Stackin? This podcast is meant to be a 5 to 10 minute recap of everything that's happened in the last week of the Steady Stack Discord. But it's put together by myself. I go by the Discord name Aragon Fire, Miss Ria, Tony, One Monomics X, Tony Sosa, Millie Ram, and we are trying to provide a resource for the community because we know that none of us can be in the Discord nonstop all the time. So we're trying to be that podcast that gives you a little summary at the end of every week to make sure you don't get left in the dust. So we want this to be a community podcast. And I want to say that we're looking for some original music for our intro. We did have a couple of ideas thrown out there, and the music that you heard in the intro today is just a little test one. We want to do some submissions from the community to actually see what you guys can put together, and then we will make the official audio behind this podcast. We're also looking for content submissions throughout the week. So moving forward now, since this will be a community thing moving forward and not just confined to the group that worked on it originally, we want to see what you guys can submit. We want to see if someone was helpful, if someone was good to you in Discord. We want to be able to shout them out on this podcast. If you found a YouTube video or a Twitter thread that was especially helpful, we want to bring it on here so that the rest of the community can benefit from it too. So be sure to submit things that helped you in the past week. Now, Tony is going to be my co-host on today's podcast. Tony, how are we doing today?
Really well. Super excited to do this. How are you?
Doing fantastic. This is been a week in the making. So yeah. I'm super hyped to finally get on here and record.
Yes, for sure. It all came together super quickly. So
yes, yeah. Chef's kiss. It came together so well. So yeah, Tony, can you let our listeners know just a little bit more about how we plan to organize this podcast like week to week in terms of the content that we're putting out?
Yeah, so on a week-to-week basis, we're basically going to be covering a few points here. So the intro will have our weekly roundup, which will cover general community updates and changes. We'll also have our weekly AMA recaps, where we'll cover high-level notes on various AMAs throughout the week. And then we'll have a gaming project of the week, where we'll sort of focus on a particular game. And we will have our outro.
Alrighty. So with that in mind, I do just want to kind of dive straight in, because the promise of this podcast is that we're bringing you the last week in 5 to 10 minutes. That is the goal. And we're going to do our best to make that happen. But as everyone knows, there's a lot that happens in the Steady Stack Discord. So, bear with us here. Our first section is the weekly roundup, as Tony mentioned, and we just want to give a general overview of the community, what's happening, who's been important, and general updates from the community. So in the last week, we've seen a number of changes to the Discord. We've seen new roles emerge as the Master Stacker, OG Stacker whitelist. We've also seen the actual, I'm sure a couple of people have noticed the golden whitelist names in chat, which are super, super interesting. So that is really cool stuff. And it should be noted that OG Stacker is not whitelist. The bright red and the gold, two completely different things. And Zan and Player H have been very, what's the word I'm looking for? They've been very prudent in telling people that they are handpicking their whitelist. There is a whitelist form coming out moving into the future, probably within the next week. That might even be a couple days from now. It could be tomorrow for all we know. But in the near future, we will see a whitelist form so that they can start handpicking those people better. The mint price for this project, we still don't know. They've said that it's going to be a bargain for the level of value that we're receiving, which from what we've seen in the last week, I'd have to agree. I would gladly pay to be in this Discord, to be fully honest. So we don't know what the mint price is yet, but we'll hopefully find that out soon. And Mint will most likely be in the next 30 to 45 days, according to Player H and Zan. So make sure you're active in the Discord. Make sure you are filling out that whitelist form when it comes in so that we can all have an opportunity to get onto the whitelist. As for the community as a whole, we know that there's a lot of things cooking behind the scenes. Obviously, we have this podcast project that we've been working on for the last week. I know that Tony Sosa has been working on a written news outlet similar to the Neo Tokyo News. I've heard rumors of spreadsheets about best play to earn projects and a couple of other things that I'm not 100% certain are actually happening, but it's clear that there's a lot happening behind the scenes of the community, and we'll probably see a lot of these projects come to light in the near future. And we will be sure to be updating you guys about each of those projects as they go live. We've also just recently seen the Inner Sanctum in the Discord, which I got to be honest, I really want to get in. I'm not in the Inner Sanctum. I'm not sure if people are in the Inner Sanctum, but it was recently announced by Zanshake that there is an Inner Sanctum for the most highly contributing members of the community. We don't know what's behind the doors of the Sanctum, obviously, because we're not in it. But he said that discussions about the future of the Earth and massive changes are happening behind the doors of the Inner Sanctum. So something to aspire for, honestly. That's just me. I really want to be in there. We've seen them talking about really large collaborations. We've already seen some pretty big figures show up on AMAs and on what's the word I'm looking for? Zoom chats with Zanshake and Player H. We've seen Ryan Pineda, who is a really big influencer in the real estate space, self-development. He has 100K YouTube subscribers. He's crazy on Instagram in terms of followers. We've seen Dr. JPEG, who's one of the biggest or most trustworthy Neo Tokyo citizens that I know. We've seen Rippy God, who, while he doesn't have a following, he is definitely one of the most intelligent people that I've heard talk in a very long time. So they expect this Discord to be popping even more once they get a lot of these big things happening. We also have a number of community shout outs to cover real quick. So a quick shout out to Boo for his swing trade tips that he's been dropping. He has his own channel. If you guys want to look over there and learn from him about swing trading and get a couple of calls, definitely do so. Mr. Gunner, one of our community members, is really stacking up the heat. He's sharing all the knowledge he can and we're trying to use it to the best of our ability as a community. Anything on NFTs, crypto, business, etc. He's been sharing in the chat and just doing his best to help out. We've also seen a couple of sneak peeks in the last week of what the NFT Titans are going to look out. So shout out to Juice Goose for that beautiful artwork. Tony, anything that you want to add in about the last week, things that you've seen in chat, general ideas?
Not much, but more or less to, you wanting to be in the Inner Sanctum. I'm sure we all do. Probably have some really exciting stuff happening behind those closed doors, but we'll see what happens, right?
We'll see what happens. All right. Moving on to our AMA recaps. So this week we had two major AMAs. We had the Rippy God one that took place on last Monday. You'll probably be hearing this podcast the Monday after it took place, so about a week later. But a couple of key points to take away from the Rippy God AMA, which I was there and I was up till 12 a.m. my time listening in. Not the healthiest decision, but totally worth it. So a couple of key takeaways that we as a team have kind of come up with is from Rippy God, you shouldn't be going all in when it comes to trading. Don't put in money you can't lose and don't be all in on your trades. But you need to have skin in the game to experience the emotions that come from trading, which you can't find from paper trading. He says the only way you really gain experience is from having skin in the game, is from doing it yourself. He also said that when it comes to trading, you need to be focusing on trading the same basket or general area of stocks. He personally focuses on tech stocks like Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, etc. But when that is applied to the community, if you're trading crypto, if you're trading stocks, then you need to choose a sector and just stick with that sector so that you fully understand exactly what it is you're trading and what different things are going to do to impact the market. Another big takeaway that I had from Rippy was that when it comes to losing, Like when he loses money, he doesn't take a loss as a loss. He sees it as a lesson. After the trading day, he looks at the loss to see what he could have done better, what went wrong, and does everything that he can to learn from it. He doesn't get knocked down by his losses. He learns from them, which I think is, you hear people say it all the time, but seeing it in action is really, really cool. So on that same topic of losses, you can't be blaming other people for your losses. When you're day trading, when you're swing trading, there's no one to blame but yourself. Yes, the market is going to do unpredictable things, but in the end, you're the person pressing the buy button and you're the person pressing the sell button. You need to have accountability for the trades that you're making. Now, a little takeaway from Zanshake, who was talking during the meeting, he said that most successful traders like Rippy have a positive mindset and a belief that good things will come to them, which is the law of attraction. If anyone hasn't heard of it, basically, if you believe good things will happen, they will happen to you. So Rippy also said that everyone's risk management is going to be different. Like when it comes to day trading and your portfolio, if you have a small portfolio and you can't afford to lose it, you're going to have a much lower risk tolerance than someone who has lots of money, is willing to take risks, and is willing to lose a lot of money because they have a lot of money. So if you're day trading, keep that in mind, that your risk management is going to be different than other people's, which is why you often can't copy traders that you'll see on YouTube or on Twitter, because they have a different risk tolerance than you. And if you try to copy their trades, you don't know, are they pulling out after they lose 10% of their portfolio, or are they pulling out after they lose 50%? Because people who have a bigger portfolio and a higher risk tolerance are more likely to take a loss in the hope that there will be a trend reversal. So when it comes to trading, these were Rippy God's major takeaways. But I will say that being on the meeting is 100 times better than listening to these takeaways here, because the things that I learned from that meeting were mind-blowing, and seeing the visual was worth everything to me. The next major AMA that took place was the real estate and future of NFTs AMA with Ryan Pineda, Dr. JPEG, obviously Zan, and Ready Player H. And this was an interesting one, because real estate has been something that I'm personally passionate about for a little while now. And seeing Ryan Pineda, who I've been following for a long time, in the NFT space is weird and crazy to me, because real estate doesn't seem like something that should have NFTs behind it, but it does. So in Ryan's own words, real estate is old school in how it's organized, but he thinks that NFTs could disrupt the space by eliminating the needs for things like insurance. And he thinks it'll change how title companies, which essentially hand out deeds to houses, work completely. Because if you think about it, an NFT is a deed of ownership to something. So he thinks that NFTs could, in a way, replace title companies and completely change how houses are bought and sold. He also said that real estate is relatively illiquid and that it is very difficult to move your capital around. Because think about it, how long can it take to sell a house? Months, years? You don't really know. But if investors could buy shares of a property using an NFT, so you made an NFT surrounding a specific house and sold 10 NFTs of this house, and each one got cash flow from the renters, suddenly you have much higher liquidity inside of a house and a much wider marketplace of people to sell to, rather than just local people who live in that location. And so when it comes to real estate and NFTs, Ryan is one of the guys that we want to go to. And he now has his Discord called Tykes Live. That stands for Real Estate Tycoons. It is currently locked Discord with around 3,000 people inside of it. But if you can watch his Twitter and watch the Tykes Twitter, you have the opportunity to get into the Discord. And I would definitely recommend doing so, because Ryan consistently provides high levels of value. And if you can get in, take advantage of that. All right, a couple of takeaways on that exact same AMA from Ready Player Agent Zanshake is that NFT should be all about value creation. Like profile pictures were just the start. Now we're moving on to value and utility, which they've preached in this Discord, and they've proven in this Discord that value and utility are what we want in an NFT. We can't just have a Bored Ape as our profile picture. We want to see physical results from that NFT. And they were talking about how Steady Stack is pegging NFT value creation to real world utility. It's not speculative because it's already proving that it's giving value beyond any normal NFT community. We've seen in the Discord, we've seen from this podcast that the level of value being brought by this community is far beyond anything that you'd find anywhere else. So those were a couple of takeaways by Zanshake and Ready Player H. Next up, we have our gaming project of the week. Tony, I'm going to hand it off to you for this one. Guys, we are talking about Imposters today.
Yes, so super exciting. Excited for the game we're covering this week. So it's called Imposters Genesis. The Imposters reveal was actually a couple days ago. Had a quick browse through. They look kind of cute, you know. And the floor price at the time of recording seems to be around 2.6 ETH. I'd actually be very curious to know if anyone from our community has actually minted or purchased an alien off of the secondary market. So with the alien, not only do you get a playable character, but you get a 360-degree animated video, 2D profile picture, and a thumbnail. The alien is not just a profile picture. There's a lot more, obviously, to it. So the Imposters itself is a social deduction NFT gaming project. So what a social deduction game is a game in which players attempt to uncover each other's hidden role or team alliances. Have you ever played Among Us, Chase?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah. Super obsessed with that game when it first came out. So that's partially why I'm excited for Imposters. So it has a very similar concept with a very incredible team, in my opinion, backing up. So the co-founder is Elliot Weinman. I might be butchering his last name there, but he is very well known in the trading industry. So amongst YouTubers and whatnot. So Elliot actually happens to be a Neo Tokyo co-founder as well. And the development team consists of individuals from Pixar and Disney. And if you actually take a look at the revealed aliens, you can actually see that the art is very similar to Pixar's. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't done so. So for the gaming, the gaming world itself, the social deduction genre is relatively new. And Elliot believes that it's perfectly placed to bridge that gap between, the Web 2 to the NFT sort of profile pic space. Social deduction games allow for interpersonal interactions that build the community, which is a very essential and core element to the Web3 movement. Imposters is built to provide utility to the SuperFram ecosystem and the SuperFram DAO. So the DAO will decide on what happens to the treasury earnings that come from playing the games and, the secondary sales and whatnot. This is a huge opportunity for super holders. Elliot has stated that his team is working hard on making sure the DAO develops a meaningful agency to make effective decisions. And so on that basis alone, this project is worth keeping an eye on. Elliot's goal is to gain 500 million users. So he knows that these players are there in the Web 2 playing this genre already, and he's going to include a sort of Web 2 onboarding process to grow the player base way beyond the expected 50 to 100K that the Web 3 itself might attract. And how does he plan on doing this, you might ask? So, well, as a starter, he has FaZe Banks on his team now. FaZe Banks, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him, but he is a co-owner and CEO of FaZe Clan, which is a global esport organization that has a global fan base of over 510 million users. 510 million users. So you never know that, he could get the 500 million users fairly quick there. The Imposters NFT is a gateway to all Genesis season events. So that's sort of like part of the roadmap for the phase 1. So essentially during phase 1, after the first 2 weeks, you are able to take your imposter to earn blood tokens. Every 2 weeks after that, you can mint you can mint these tokens for various different things, such as a UFO, pets, materials, and a cosmetics chest. So at the end of your season, during phase 1, you can combine all of your items to obtain a piece of Imposterverse land. And of course, during phase 1, you will have access to beta test the game itself. And that is just phase 1. So phase 2 and 3 will consist of the actual game launch, map and game maker abilities, and so on and so forth. Super exciting things coming down the pipeline for this project. So if you don't own an alien, and if you're not planning on it, I highly suggest you keep your eyes on this project regardless, just based off of what they're trying to accomplish in this space and how they're trying to bridge that gap. So I'm just going to pass it over to Chase now.
Well, thank you, Tony. And I want to say, I wish I had the liquidity for an imposter right now. Like, I think they're going for like 2.5 ETH a piece on secondary, which is mind-blowing to me because that's on par with Neo Tokyo Outer Citizens, which is kind of crazy to think about. That Neo Tokyo Outer Citizens, which is Neo Tokyo is in my opinion, one of the best projects in the NFT space right now. But the idea that Imposters is on par with that, or at least with the Outer Citizens, it's kind of crazy. Kind of wish I had the liquidity for one. So with that game wrap up complete, we are at the outro for this episode. I hope we didn't go too long, and I hope we didn't take out too much of your guys' time. I hope that we were able to create some kind of value. If you want to look at some of the content that we referenced in this podcast episode, the description of this video will have links to the document that we used to basically compile all of our notes. I'm going to do my best to link to Twitter threads and videos and things in the Discord that you guys can use as references for the content that we covered this week. Once again, we do want this to be a community podcast. So if you guys want to submit people that were helpful, content that helped you, YouTube videos, Twitter threads, etc., please reach out to me. I'm Aragon Fire in the Discord, or Tony at literally Tony, Toni, in the Discord. You can also reach out to any of the other members of the team, which are at Ria, at Monomics, Tony Sosa, and Meli Rama. So thank you so much, guys, for listening into this. Moving in the future, we're hoping to be including audio clips, videos, Twitter threads that you can actually watch on the video form. But until then, we will see you in the next episode of the Speed Stackin Recap podcast. Tony, you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You as well, Chase.